did it. I have manufactured, should have done a McSalty on it, but oh well. I have manufactured a dash cam. It's my old phone, and I'm going to mount it. Oh, I mounted it with a big suction cup to my windshield, and I'm going to record my drives to catch bad drivers. So we'll see how that works. Alright, let me switch over. We are on! So I'm going to record this drive and see if I catch any wrecks. Not that I'm looking for wrecks, or not that I'm hoping there are wrecks, but there are wrecks on my way to work, and there are bad drivers. And I wanted to point out a few things about people who drive in this area. You can tell from the video pretty well that I'm shooting now that I pretty much try to stay in my on my side of the road. And but people here in Pennsylvania, or in this area in particular, his blinky lights, his stop sign's still out and his blinky lights are off. Alright, whatever. But what I call lane discipline. People, especially with the windy roads, you would think that people would have better lane discipline, but they don't. They'll cross all in your grill, and you hope that they pull over in time to not hit you. So maybe I'll catch some of that. So this would be probably the new morning drive, or drive with Salty. I don't know what the heck to call it. But bad driving with Salty. I don't know. Enjoy the ride. And if there's nothing particularly interesting going on, I won't post. I won't post the drive. I'll just post the highlights. But it is a pretty drive. I feel very fortunate to be able to drive in this type of scenery. And I used to just want to get there the most direct route. And living where I do now, there are a lot of curves and turns and not so many what do they call it, cutbacks. What do they call those things? Switchbacks. Not too many switchbacks. But it does turn and wander quite a bit. Actually, you know what? For this inaugural run of the dash cam, I do have a story. And what's cool, I think, is I think this has a reverse camera, so actually I have to stop it to reverse the camera. But I think with this, I can do I can record my Salty's bits and stuff like that without having to hold the camera in my hand. Today's Salty's bit is kind of a weird story. Well, they're all weird stories. When I was in elementary school, I believe, around 4th to 5th grade, the left middle finger had a wart right behind the nail line, right behind the fingernail. And it was like right in the middle. It didn't start out as much. It started out as kind of like a scab or something. I just don't remember it. It just kind of snuck up on me. So didn't pay much attention to it, and it got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, and it grew to this. It just was like hardened skin. Was all it was. Kind of like when you get a callus. So I had this callus on my middle finger, and it grew and grew and grew to about the size of, I don't know, 1/4 inch. But it wasn't raised. It was just a callus. And I just thought it was weird, and I picked at it a little bit, but it it didn't come off. You know, there was like no edge or anything to it. It was just there. And then after some time, I say a month or so, it grew to it was like, say, a 1/16 of an inch. It raised up. So it was a little bump, about a 1/4 inch. And it didn't hurt or anything. It was just kind of annoying because it was there, and I always kind of paid attention to it at this point. And my neighbor, so he had some of that Compound W stuff, but he didn't have any warts at this time. He had warts before. But so he gave me like a half-empty bottle of Compound W. Here's a famous need to merge. Oh my goodness. All right, here we go. Here's the spot. Window. Jam on it. So my neighbor gave me this half bottle, half full of Compound W, and told me how to use it. So you just, there was no squirter in it. It was just like a stick, like a plastic or glass stick in the middle under the lid. And so you took it and you took it out, and it smelled. It was clear liquid syrup looking, and it had a little minty smell to it, but it also had like a little sour smell to it. So I'm guessing it was some kind of acid. Now, I didn't know what the heck it was back then, but anyway, so you took this stick and you kind of dabbed it where the wart was, and you left it there, and the directions were you had to put it on like 2 or 3 times a day, and for 7 days, and it should peel off like a scab. No, supposedly no pain, right? So I did that, and as advertised, there was no pain. A little irritation, but I wouldn't say it was painful. Kind of like an itch-like irritation, and it developed this crust on top of the wart. And then after 7 or 8 days, you peeled it off. It just kind of fell off. Of course, kids being kids, and I was picking at it, and it came off. But when it came off, there was still a little like dot there. It was like it didn't get it all. So I put some more on there, waited another 7 days, and peeled it off again. And now there was like an indentation where the wart was. And but it still didn't feel right. And the indentation was now level with the nail line. I know a lot of people out there are going to be like, oh, it's making me nauseous. But I don't remember any pain with it. It looked kind of unsettling. It wasn't like an open sore, bleeding pustule or anything. It was just an indentation in my finger, and there was it looked like a small layer of skin underneath that indentation. So I picked at it and I picked at it, because back then, kids played outside. I didn't have cable, didn't have video games. And what else are you gonna do except pick at a wart? So I'm picking at it, and I pulled a final layer of skin that was under that wart or whatever it was. And the most bizarre thing I'd seen on my hand was it looked like, I don't know, hard to describe. There was another layer of skin, but it was separate than the layer of skin that I peeled off, and it was like a little bubble. It was a little less than a 1/4 inch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch or something, as far as I could see. So it's kind of like if there was a crater in your skin, and in the middle of the crater there was a bubble, right? And so, I don't know, I'll try to illustrate it. But and there's a little bubble, and it was kind of soft. I couldn't really touch it because it was in the middle of the crater. But of course, as a kid, I poked it with a pencil lead, and it didn't hurt. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And there were, you know, it was now below the nail line. So, and I was thinking, man, this ain't good. And I'm guessing that's the root of the wart. So I think at first I tried putting some of that compound W on it, but it didn't do anything. It ate more of the skin around it, but it didn't take care of that little bubble. So I think I gave up, and and I think one day I poked it with a sharp pencil lead. So this was the level of intelligence that I had at that age. And it started bleeding, but it wasn't like really red, dark red blood. It was kind of like blood mixed with water. It was kind of pinkish fluid. So, of course, I got a paper towel, and I just held it on my hand and let it bleed out. And it just kept, it just kind of kept leaking out, and not like the whole didn't soak up the whole paper towel, but it soaked up pretty good amount of the paper towel. And when it stopped bleeding, it was just a hole. It just it didn't it didn't keep bleeding or anything. It wasn't red underneath or anything. It was just like a healed up piercing. So if like I pierced my finger, like I put an earring piercing on my finger, that's what it looked, and it healed up, and that's what it looked like. It was just an indentation. So it was kind of bizarre. At this point, I'm like, what do I do? You know, I don't want it to get infected. I wasn't really thinking that. It's like, I don't want to get sick, or I don't know. It was weird. So then I got some alcohol. In our house, we had alcohol and aspirin. So if you cut yourself, put alcohol on it. If you had a headache, take some aspirin. So that was the extent of our medical kit, first aid kit in our house. So I got some alcohol. I put it on a cotton swab or something, and I dabbed it on that location where the wart was, where that bubble was, and just held it on there. It hurt a little bit, but again, you know, as a kid, I don't remember it being excruciatingly painful. So I never really, you know, that's why the alcohol, you think, would have burned the snot out of it, but anyway, so then I put a Band-Aid on it, no big deal, and just kind of went on my way. And my finger started healing back on itself, but like, I don't know, I'd say a month, or not even a month, maybe a couple weeks later, I noticed that in my fingers in my left hand, I couldn't feel stuff. The feeling, it was like I was wearing gloves. The feeling was kind of dull in my left hand. So, didn't think nothing of it, and then there was like a little bubble, kind of like on the fingerprint side of my left hand, there was a little bubble, kind of like if you had a callus that was peeling, or a sunburn that was peeling, and the skin was bubbling up. So again, me being the kid I was, I picked at it and I peeled the skin back, no big deal. But then my other fingers started to peel too, and then eventually, long story short, all the skin on the fingertips of my left hand peeled off, and they were really, really sensitive to hot and cold. And I never told my mom any of this. I was scared to death that she was going to get mad at me for having you know, for picking at the wart. So, anyway, you know, after all the skin off my fingertips peeled off, I was fine, and the wart never grew back. But it was just bizarre. Yeah, burn it up. So, that's my wart story. Catch you later.